This will be a tutorial video on stabilization subroutines, when to use them and when to not use them. Let's just check them real fast first. The first one uses one CPU core and reduces it by, or the mass and power by 10%. Second one extra core and another 9%. One extra core, 8%. One extra core, 7%. One extra core and another 7%. So the more cores you put into a single item, the lower the percents actually get, which is kind of logical. Now we're gonna take a look at how many cores you have and where they're coming from. You have 18 to start with, that's the base if you have a CPU maxed out. Each Tier 3 ability or Tier 4 ability will use 3 cores by default, so you have 3, 6, 9 cores. That means you have 9 extra cores left over that you can spend on items. That's if you choose to skip HKM. A Tier 4 HKM will use up 4 cores, meaning you have 3, 6, 9, 13 cores, leaving an extra 5 cores to spend. And that's why an HKM will not only cost mass and power what the HKM costs, it will also cost extra on the other items, because yeah, you can use less subroutines on other items. So that's one extra reason why to skip HKM. On some frames HKM is just too good to skip, but for me, like on an assault frame, I don't need the HKM. Yes, it would be nice to have it, but I'd rather have the mass power and the extra cores to do other things, which makes the frame just that much better. For abilities and for everything in general, things that use power, those are things that are direct damage. So your weapon will always be power. Yes, it has the base mass of 120 for a Tier 4, but it's a weapon, deals direct damage, so it's gonna use power. Creator, same thing there. It's direct damage, uses power. Passives can vary depending on frame, but plating, servos, jump jets, they're all gonna use mass. Same thing goes for healing abilities and for movement abilities. So afterburner, movement, it's gonna be all mass. There are some abilities, HKMs and passives, that are like a mix. It's both utility and damage. So yeah, they're gonna use both mass and power. But generally speaking, damage abilities uses power, healing and mobility uses mass. And this is important because when you think about what abilities you're gonna use, if you only use damage abilities, which is tempting to just toss in 3 damage abilities, you're gonna be really starved on power, and I'll show that in a second. But on this frame, since I'm using one heavy movement ability and I'm skipping HKM, and normally I only use 2 abilities, but I just put in 3 to show it. Yeah, I have a lot of power to spare, so I'm fine on power. I don't have to use my subroutines on anything that has to do with damage. So I chose to put all my cores into my plating and my afterburn, because those are by far my 2 heaviest items. Like the plating uses a bit over 700 mass without any cores, so that's why I have 5 cores in this. And like we said before, yes, the higher or the last stages of the subroutines only gives you a 7% reduction. But if you think about it, 7% on 700 mass, that's 49 mass, compared to if I just put in 1 core into like my jump jets, that's 10%, that would be a 32 mass reduction, a 40 mass reduction on the servos. Yeah, I still, even though I get lower percentages on the higher cores or the higher subroutines, I still gain value by using it on my absolutely heaviest items. So I'm gonna show the Rhino. Just tossed on a lot of damage abilities just to show it. If this ever loads. You'll notice I'm not using HKM. I have no power left to spare. I mean, I can't even max out my weapon, even though I'm only using a low blue weapon. I mean, there is no way I can equip a purple weapon. There is no way I can equip HKM, even if I wanted to. I can't even get on a stock HKM because it will go over power. And that's because I have all damage abilities. Even though I put in 3 cores into each of these 2 damage abilities, no one in those, but still, I just can't do it. This frame really isn't playable. I had to sacrifice on my jump jets, on my servos. Okay, plating is the same. I had to sacrifice on my passive. I just can't play it like this. So I'd say use, even if you don't want to use mobility ability or a healing ability, whatever, you could consider just using 2 abilities, since that means, yeah, I get 281 extra power from this if I remove this, but that's also 3 cores that I could put into my other 2 abilities, making them even stronger or the same but for less power, which means I can max out my weapon and, yeah, get more damage. So just, it's not really possible to use 3 damaging abilities if you use 2 high quality. And if you still want to do it, that's where you have to spend your cores. You can't afford to spend it on mass. So yeah, that's subroutines.